The presence of black people with aspirations. The presence of black people who achieve. It's the presence of black people who refuse to accept their subjugation. The presence of black people who demand their rights. That's the trigger for white rage.
What's up, kings and queens? I hope you're doing fine wherever you are today. So today here with me, I'm here to present another important video that I feel like the black community and generally America should listen to this video because it forms a basis of that hidden part that most of us don't see. And even today we are asking a lot of questions. Why are we still facing some challenges? Why are black people and generally Americans facing challenges while in the United States? So this video is here to explore different things that the black community and generally Americans needs to know. Because Professor Anderson, this African American professor, went and this lecture was really important. And even the people who she was addressing, she was talking to the white audience. Majority of the people which were there were the white audience. And I believe this is something which could be resonating to an American today, whether white or black, but most importantly, to a black person. Now, the question of white rage, this is something which has been happening. And while the media has been portraying that the black folks are the people who has their rage, the black people are people who have been having a lot of problems to deal with their rage. But there is this unspoken part of the truth where we also have the white rage. And who is to blame for the fall of the United States today? It is the white rage that is to be blamed for the fall of the United States today. You're asking yourself why? I want us to watch this video and then I'll be interrupting in the middle, trying to say something to you so that we can go and get to understand how this thing works, get to know how this thing goes, because I believe that it's an important topic that we need to discuss. And so with that, I'm here to let you watch this video, and you can also tell me what you think in the comment section about this video. If you're watching this video for the first time, I know if you'll be amazed by the video, consider liking the video, consider subscribing so that it can reach a lot of people. People need to know this truth, and I believe it starts with you and me. That's why I'm putting out to you this so that you can get to learn together. So here with me, I want us to watch the video. So let's get right into it.
First, let me just say thank you. It is so wonderful having you here today. It is wonderful being honored with the John F. Morgan Senior Distinguished Faculty Lecturer, and it is wonderful to be at Emory. I wanted to talk about white rage. And I know it sounds crazy, but let me talk about how a black woman got to white rage. And although it looks like it began with Ferguson, actually it began in February 1999 when a black man came home from a hard day's work. And he went home, got into his apartment, and realized there was no food. You know that when you come home, you worked hard, you look in the refrigerator, and the refrigerator's looking back at you. And there's that moment where he's like, oh, but he's in New York. And you know New York, the city that never sleeps. So you know there's going to be food available. So he goes outside, he steps on his apartment, the porch, and whew, a car rolls up. 4 officers of the NYPD hop out, guns drawn. 41 bullets later, Amadou Diallo goes down. 19 of those bullets hit. Amadou Diallo was unarmed. He had committed no crime. There was no warrant out for his arrest. He was just a black man in the Bronx. Now, that is bad enough. But then I'm watching Ted Koppel's Nightline, and Mayor Rudy Giuliani is on. And Giuliani is just unrepentant. And Ted Koppel, as you know, is not a softball interviewer. And he is on Giuliani. He's like, Amadou, I'ma do. I'ma do. And Rudy's like, what? He barely says the man's name. What he does say, my policies are working. New York City is safer now than it has been in years. And he pulls out his little flip charts with the little graph showing crime going down. My policies are working. New York City is safer. And I'm thinking, it's not safer for Amadou. Safer for whom? And the policies that he's talking about, it's the broken windows policing policy. That broken windows policing policy basically hyper polices black and brown neighborhoods, criminalizing black people, criminalizing brown people. You jaywalk, the cops are on you. Drop some litter on the ground, cops are on you. You're standing, cops are on you. You're walking, cops are on you. You are getting ready to step off the curb, cops are on you. That hyper policing is the policy that Mayor Rudy Giuliani said was working. And while he talked about it, he said, and my police force is the most restrained and best behaved in the United States. I'm in Kafka land right now. You know, where Gregor Samsa's this big cockroach, but everybody's acting like it's normal, right? You know, because I'm thinking, most restrained and best behaved, don't fire 41 bullets at an unarmed man. I know something is wrong, but I don't know how to name it. And you know, we have to name things in order to be able to face them, to be able to deal with them. And so I don't know what to call this thing. And I'm just going, ugh. But as a scholar, I keep writing, I keep researching, I keep thinking, I keep teaching, I keep writing, I keep researching, I keep thinking. And then in August 2014, I'm in my home office and the TV is on. And I look up, and Ferguson is on fire. I mean, the flames are everywhere. And it didn't matter. I had the remote in my hand and I'm flipping the channels and it didn't matter. Let me see, my left hand. It didn't matter if I'm watching MSNBC. Yeah. CNN or Fox. Out this door. It didn't matter. And they all said the same thing. Look at black folks burning up where they live. Did you know that black people were burning up where they lived? Black folks are burning up where they live. What is wrong with black people? Burning up who burns up where they live? Because one of the things you begin to understand is that America needs the narrative of black pathology. You know, everything would be fine if only black folks would. Right? We've heard this. And then you begin to fill in the blank. If only they would value education. If only they would not be thugs. If only they would. You fill in the blank in terms of that black pathology, because that is absolutely necessary in the narrative of America. And so there I'm watching MSNBC, CNN, and Fox, all with the same narrative of black pathology, this black rage they're talking about. Well, I'm sitting up there and I'm shaking my head. You know how you're shaking your head like, And then I realized I'm looking shoulder to shoulder to shoulder to shoulder. I'm shaking my head so hard. And I said, no, this is white rage.
Just a little bit of interruption. You know, for the longest time, people always want you to just stay where you are, don't do anything productive, say A, B, C, D, talk about what's happening. But you know what? You need to step up as a black person. And when you step up, you keep pissing off people. When you piss off people, now that's where the rage comes from. You get to understand. And the sister explained it so clearly that those people who wakes up in the morning, go do their things without looking into what happened to them historically, not looking and not sleeping in it, but waking up and using it as their strength. That's what leads to what we call the white rage. And basically, if a black person does this, it promises that there is development. And when there is development, this means that they could be much better than a white person, if a black person decides to do something. So that is the cause, the root cause of what we call the white rage. And so my understanding of what the professor was trying to say is that, in a way, he's trying to motivate people to get out there and get things and get to do things in the right way, get to do things and work hard. Because for the longest time, stereotypically, black person has been always associated with drugs. Black people have been associated with not going to work, lazy, and laying in the bed, complaining. Those are what people have been saying about black person. What if you turn the script and say that, no, what I wanna do, I wanna go get the bag, I wanna go do things which are productive with my life, and people are like, damn, these are not black people that I know. So that's when the white rage comes, and you need to challenge this type of problems. You need to challenge these things which are happening to people in the black community. So that's why every day, every time, we need to rise up and talk about these things. So let's continue watching the video.
Ooh. Ooh. This is white rage. I had lived in Missouri for 13 years. I saw the way that policy worked. I saw the way that policy systematically and systemically undermined African Americans' access to their citizenship rights. But as a nation, we were so focused in on the flames that we missed the kindling. That kindling. Let's talk about some of that kindling at Ferguson. Kindling. 67% of Ferguson's population is African American. In the 2013 municipal election, the black voter turnout rate was 6%. How do you turn 67% of the population into 6% of the voters? Those are numbers from Jim Crow, Alabama. You do it via a series of policies, the ways that you hold your elections, the ways that you craft your ballots. There's a whole series of tricks that you can use to change 67% into 6%. Kindling. Because you begin to think about what it means if you don't believe that you even have a say in who your representatives are. Kindling. Let's talk about the schools. Michael Brown's school system. Missouri rates its school systems. It accredits them on a 140-point scale. Graduation rates, matriculation rates, test scores, the whole 9 yards. And you can get a total of 140 points. How many points do you think Michael Brown's school system got? How many? On 140. 20. That's a good one, Eric. That's a good one. 20 out of 140, right? Anybody else? 10. Whoa. Aren't okay, I believe that's called cheating. 10. 10 out of 140 points for 15 years. What that means then is that the public policy leadership was very comfortable with pulling an entire generation of black children through a school system that could garner no more than 10 points, an entire generation. And then start pulling another generation through, because we're at 15 points from K through 12. Kindling. Kindling. Let's talk about the police. We know that the police are here to protect and serve. Yeah, because I'm going to be doing this throughout, because there's a kind of hymn book that we sing from, right? We know, right? We know the police are here to protect and serve. So in this protect and serve, except in Ferguson, they looked at that black population as revenue generators. So you're doing 26 and a 25, boom, ticket. I don't think you fully stopped at that stop sign. Boom, ticket. Looks like you've got a broken tail light. Boom, ticket. And this is a working class neighborhood. And so when you start hitting this neighborhood, this community, with $50 tickets, $25 tickets, $80 tickets, $100 tickets, and you begin to think about what that means. You pay the ticket or you pay your rent. You pay the ticket or you keep food on the table. You keep the lights on. There's not disposable income here. When you don't pay that ticket, the next time you're doing 26 and a 25, because now there's a warrant out for your arrest. Then you are jailed. And then the entire criminal justice process of fines and court fees and bail are all pulling from this working class black community. By the time when Ferguson blew, those fines and those tickets accounted for 25% of Ferguson's operating budget. 25%. And let me be really clear. Justice was not blind. Justice, in fact, had, what did he call it? Had LASIKs. Because justice was, so if the police would happen to stop somebody white and try to hand them a ticket and go, ooh, sorry, not you. Or if the police officer handed somebody white a ticket and somebody white went in to go then pay the ticket, it was like, what are you doing? I'm trying to pay this ticket. And to tear up the ticket. So you're getting this massive extraction from the working class black population in Ferguson. Kindling. And so as I began to think about this kindling, I began to think about the way that white rage worked. White rage is not about visible violence. We often think of rage as visible. We often think of the racism as this visible thing. But white rage is subtle. It is corrosive. It operates through the state legislatures, through Congress, through the judiciary, through school boards. It cloaks itself in legalities. And so I set out, and so because it's so quiet, it's so subtle, you don't see it. And so I set out to blow graphite onto that fingerprint, to be able to trace white rage throughout time, not all the way back to time immemorial with the dinosaurs, but at least up to the Civil War all the way through to 2016. And one of the things that became clear to me as I started thinking through how white rage works, it became clear to me that the presence of black people was not the trigger for white rage. There's that stunned, almost, what you talking about, Willis? Look. It is the presence of black people with ambition. The presence of black people with drive. The presence of black people with aspirations. The presence of black people who achieve. It's the presence of black people who refuse to accept their subjugation. The presence of black people who demand their rights. That's the trigger for white rage. And this society has therefore punished black resilience and black resolve. Now, at this point, this sounds like almost Scooby-Doo-ish, right? Because we know it's so counterintuitive because we think of the US, America, as the land of opportunity, right? And so all you've got to do is work hard, yes. And I'm telling you, y'all know the hymn, right? So my baritones here. Right? We know the hymn. We don't even have to pull out the book. It is in the ether. It's in the cultural language that we understand how this nation works. But so what happens if you have a series of policies that in fact punish Black achievement, Black aspiration? And it sounds counterintuitive, but how else can you explain how government after government after government has worked so hard to see to it that Black children do not get a quality education? Let me give you a couple of examples. In 1947, in Prince Edward County, Virginia, the school board finally agreed to build a high school for the Black children. Because remember, this is a completely segregated system, Jim Crowed. And so in 47, that would be after the US helped defeat the Nazis. I need to put that in its time frame. Then we get a high school for Black children in Prince Edward County. Within a few years, that school is bursting at the seams. 2 to 3 times as many children are in this space than that building can hold. And so the Black parents are going to the school board, the all-white school board, saying, we need an additional school. We've got kids bursting at the seam. It's doggone near impossible for them to learn sitting one on top of the other like that. We need a new building. The school board was like, no. And the parents are pushing hard, unrelenting, demanding education for their children. And the school board finally relented and put up 3 tar paper shacks and said, your kids can go there. Now, meanwhile, the white school is nice brick with indoor plumbing, which is not available in the Black high school. By this time, we're in 1951. So there was a young woman, Barbara Johns, 17, and Barbara Johns was like, my name is the wrong one. You gonna take this? You gonna take this? No, you're not taking this. You gonna take this? Yeah, you're like, no, we're gonna walk on out of here, aren't we? And she starts organizing that school for a massive walkout, a massive demonstration, saying, we're not having this. We're not having it. They rose up and boom, hit the door. Administrators were like, what just happened here? And they were like, yeah, yeah. Now, she wasn't playing. And so the death threats started coming in on this 17-year-old child who was demanding quality education. It was so bad that her parents had to spirit her away to safety to Alabama. Boom, I rest my case. You know when you got to go to Alabama for safety in 1951? Woo! Woo! Meanwhile, Prince Edward County becomes one of the school districts that's bundled into the Brown case. Now, when Brown came down, Prince Edward County said, oh, I got something real for you. And so what the town fathers, working with the state legislature, decided to do was to shut down the entire public school system. Because that way, if we've got to have equal schools, then Black children and white children equally do not have access to a public school. And you can almost hear the "aren't I smart" written on them. Except, so Black parents are like, what? But they're not listening to Black parents. White parents are like, what? And they're like, oh, no, 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 we got this. You know we're not going to let your white babies go uneducated. You know that. And so what they have done is that they have set up taxpayer-funded vouchers to pay for the tuition for white children to go to all white segregated private academies. So white children continue to be educated, and there is absolutely nothing for black children. Thousands upon thousands of black children. And it wasn't just in Prince Edward County. This was in areas throughout the South. And when these schools are shut down, Prince Edward County is shut down for 5 years. Begin to think about that. You're in the 5th grade. When your school opens up again, you're supposed to be in the 10th. Think about everything that you have lost in those precious 5 years. And this is at that moment where the US economy is beginning to transform from a manufacturing-based economy to a technology-driven, knowledge-based economy. And we have all of these black children that the governments and the school boards have said will not be educated, period. What does this mean? Let me give you some sense of the power of white rage. So Brown won, and I see law professor Robert Shapiro here. Brown won, 1954, where separate but equal has no place in public education. Did I quote that right? Yes, okay. Brown 2, 1955. This is the implementation decision with all deliberate speed. 1956, 101 US congressmen and senators dug in, signed the Southern Manifesto, vowing massive resistance to the Supreme Court decision. We will use every lever of power within our control to fight this thing. 1957, radio signals pick up, beep, 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 and you hear President Eisenhower going, dang, 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 because beep is Sputnik. The Soviets have launched a satellite into the air, into orbit, and it is a technological feat that the US did not believe that the Soviets could master. But it's more than that. The Soviets have their nuclear arsenal. But the US is thinking, yeah, but they don't know how to get over the Atlantic or the Pacific. We're good. So we'll have some forward bases for our allies in Europe and our allies in Asia, but we're good. Beep, beep. And so the federal government does something that it hadn't done before. It pledges hundreds of millions of dollars into education to fund what they said would be the brain power to fight the Cold War. We need scientists and engineers to be able to counter, to outrun, to be able to outdo what the Soviets are mastering here. Now, this National Defense Education Act was huge, landmark, and it was being guided through Congress by 2 Alabamians. I think I just did spoiler alert. So their concern was, we want that money. You know, universities like the money. They like the money. And when the feds are putting up hundreds of millions of dollars to build labs and hire faculty and for postdocs, universities are like all on that. But Alabama was concerned because Alabama's not admitting black folk. Alabama has a whites-only admissions policy. And we got the law of the land saying, no, you can't do that. And so in this discussion with the Eisenhower administration, they're like, we will shepherd this bill through. We need to make sure that we do not have to abide by Brown. We need to make sure in financing the brain power for the Cold War that we get to maintain Jim Crow in our admissions policies. And the federal government said, yeah, we're cool with that. And so I'm thinking Jim Crow, nuclear annihilation. Nuclear annihilation. Nuclear annihilation. They're like, nah, son, Jim Crow. That's more important than being able to ensure that our citizens, our people, have the education that they need in this incredible, critical moment. That's white rage. Anybody see Hidden Figures? Yeah. Think about what that would mean if we had had that kind of investment then. And think about where we are now as we're trying to figure out how do we get more African Americans into STEM fields when we have systematically refused to invest in those schools even after Brown. Let me give you another example. The war on drugs. We can really have church up in here now, you know that, right? On the war on drugs, because one of the ways that white rage works is it cloaks itself in reasonableness. We have to keep our community safe. We have to protect our children. We have to ensure safety and security for our neighborhoods. And who doesn't want a safe and secure neighborhood? Who doesn't want to protect our children? It sounds reasonable. But how is it then? Because the research is really clear that we have focused the war on drugs on the population that does drugs the least when it comes to cocaine. The least. And about the same when it comes to marijuana. How is it in the war on drugs we have targeted those who do it the least? How is it that we have spent $1 trillion? That's real money. That's even beyond university money, isn't it? That's with a T. Woo, $1 trillion on the war on drugs. The war on drugs has destabilized state budgets. When you think about public education, I remember when I worked in Ohio for the Board of Regents, one of the things that we were fighting for was to try to get enough state money into higher education in order to drive the tuition down so that more and more students would be able to afford college. Instead, that money went immediately into the corrections budget. You can almost map, like in California, the dollar-to-dollar exchange coming out of the University of California budget, going into the corrections budget. And I just saw a figure that said it costs more now to incarcerate someone in California than it does to send them through Harvard. So this is not an issue of resources. This is an issue of priorities. And so you're asking yourself, now self, because that's how I talk to myself. Self, what could drive this kind of thing? Where as a nation, we're spending $1 trillion, where we would destabilize our state budgets, where we would block out access to higher education for our own folk. But then when you realize that the war on drugs really began to emerge after the civil rights movement and those incredible gains. The 1964 Civil Rights Act and the 1965 Voting Rights Act hard fought for. Blood all along the way. But if you have a felony conviction, which is what mass incarceration does, all of a sudden your access to the non-discrimination clauses in the Civil Rights Act, there are things you cannot do with a felony conviction. There are places you cannot live. There are student loans you cannot have access to. So you cannot go to school if you've got that felony conviction. And you want to talk about the right to vote? Ooh, let's take Florida. Okay, I hear some folks like, yeah, take it. Let's take Florida. In Florida, Florida has what they call permanent felony disfranchisement. Now, what that means, because it's not quite permanent, but after you serve your sentence and then your time out, like parole, then you have to wait 14 years from that moment to then be able to individually petition the governor asking for your voting rights back. What that means is that when you look at Florida, about 40% of black men are not able to vote in Florida because of felony disfranchisement. 40%. Overall, for African Americans, is somewhere between 23 to 25% of voting age eligible African Americans cannot vote in Florida. Now, Florida doesn't mind counting their heads when it comes to the census in order to get the number of representatives in Congress. It's just though that those folks do not have any kind of say in who their representatives will be in a representative democracy. It reminds me of the 3/5 clause. So while I'm talking about the vote, let me just move on to that next piece. In 2008, Barack Obama was elected president of the United States. Seems like a long time ago, doesn't it? and and the way that he did it, though, is that through his organization, that organizing capacity in those communities, 15 million new voters came to the polls in 2008. 15 million. Now, what we say as a democracy is that we love that, because that means then that people aren't alienated, that they believe they have a stake in this nation, that they believe that they have a buy-in. Because what we know is that if you have masses of alienated people in your society is getting ready to quake. But having people buying in, believing they have a stake, 15 million. And then let me give you some of the data, the demographic data on that 15 million. 2 million were African American. Ooh. That's almost a third of Atlanta. Think about that in terms of 2 million were Hispanic. 600,000 were Asian Americans. And almost doubling the percentage of those who made less than $15,000 a year.
Now, listen, sometimes you can be thinking that the professor, she's just talking for the sake of talking. But trust me, she ain't just talking for the sake of talking. And share with me, I'm going to show you. And first, I'm sorry for cutting the video short. I'll share the link to the original video so that you can go check it out, all of the video, if you resonated with what Professor Anderson was talking about, because indeed it's also important to the black community. It's important to the America. Little did they know where they can shift the focus and put a lot of work where work should be kept. Because for the recent times we've been seeing a lot of professors, economical professors, coming out talking about how the America will fall, and amongst other things that are causing, or amongst other things which are the roots of American falling, is not prioritizing where to put the wealth which should be kept, you know. So if they're spending a lot of money in a number of things which doesn't build the economy of the United States, and I believe that if certain things that the professor have highlighted or talked about, if it could have been looked keenly, it could have really helped to alleviate some of the problems that people in the United States generally, not black, not white, are going through. Because majority of people who are making these decisions are people who are up there, and they are either white or black people. So here with me, I found this story or this lecture by this Professor Anderson. What she was talking about, it's really, really important to the black community in this sense. I'm going to read you how people going to relate with this situation, and people are sharing their personal anecdotes to what they went through, or what their experiences, or what they saw with their eyes. And so here with me, I'm gonna read you these comments. So Arizona's Phoenix PD and Squaw Peak Present has harassed me and my three sons in various way all through the 90s. While they were teenagers growing into men, nobody helped us. Not even the church, not even the family. A hardworking nurse single mother has seen so much fear and doubt in my baby's eyes in this time. Today, they are very prolific speakers, writers, and intellectuals. Thank you, God. Yes. And this is a true depiction that we need to wake up. We need to face our fears. We need to stand up and put in the work, you know, because the fear of the enemy is fear of putting work. When you put work, the enemy himself will be so amazed with you, and you will be so powerful. And that's the only way in the 21st century you can be powerful as a black person in the United States. Somebody is saying she's speaking so profoundly about American history. I love listening to her. It is like when my grandmother used to tell her stories, and she has my undivided attention. Yes, because most of the things that she says really relates to people. And I personally can say that it's true what she's saying. Because bearing the fact that the stories that I've been listening, the things that I've been seeing through the media, it's true. And it confirms itself that it is true. These things are happening. So somebody's saying, my daughter says she's amazing. A former student of scholarly woman at Emory University class of 2019. I think one of the students who have come across these lectures or through schools know very well that indeed she is incredible. She is incredible. So somebody say that, when are these problems going to be a priority? I'm a 53 from inner city originals, so I know all too well she is talking the truth. This has been going on my whole life, probably before that. Anybody have any ideas how to make the politicians to really listen? This lady should have an appointment in a presidential cabinet. She is very smart and really understanding, because she addresses things which are going on, things that people need to talk about. Somebody saying, I'm a white middle-aged male, and this video floored me, thank you. I think the average white middle-class American is afraid of losing what a little security they think they have, and that's where the fear and racism comes from. I know very little about this, obviously. Others have much experience than I. Truly hope for a nation of true equality on all levels. Thank you. Yes, nation of true equality on all levels, because we are deprioritizing the black community. When we are deprioritizing the black community, we are having people from the black community with a number of potentials. So if we keep on putting them down and prioritizing other people, or if a black person could have been kept in the same place, could have worked so much hard as compared to this person who is placed here, now you get to where it economically killing the United States. You understand? So if you look at it in that point, economical point, you'll get to understand the perspective that I'm talking about. Somebody also said, uh-huh. Somebody also said, and listen to this is so important. I recently heard of a white woman in Texas complaining about books of racism at the bookstore of a toured plantation. She wrote into the board of plantation and complained. So, so they took up to 12 books off the shelves. I looked up the books, and White Rage was one of the books along with Roots. She didn't realize it's a fuss over the books that made me search the titles and well, that lead me here. Somebody also said that why would a human block another human from success? It's not because they are better than everyone else, it's because they are not. That's so clearly, and that's so clearly stated, and I believe that it really makes sense. And from this point, it resonates with the black community. And this is what I've just said somewhere ago. If this relevant post, we could find people who can do them so well, and I believe amongst the injured people are from the black community, which if they were placed in those posts, a person who is used to getting something which is better, when people start talking about equality, now it turns to them that it looks like an oppression. And that's what I like to say, because for the unity and for the growth of a place, the rest need to be put down so that people can move together. It's about winning, it's not about competition. Somebody saying, I agree that the trigger of white rage is not a black person, but a black person. And others of color, but especially black, who have ambitions, drive, intelligence, success, self-empowerment, and self-respect. That's truth, and we all know that. Somebody used to say, as a white male raising kids, I've been trying to educate myself as close as I can, for lack of a better phrase, and far from the actuality of it, put myself in others' shoes. And I raise myself and my children accordingly. Align at the beginning, we were focused on the flames. We missed the kindling, hooked me. This is a fantastic monologue, and I will watch this whenever I need a reminder. We did not even, that's why I was saying in the inclusive of this video now, it's not even about black or white, it's about the movement of growth.
It is the policy.
It is the movement and growth of everybody who feels like this is something that they need to get in, this is something that they need to concentrate in, because this is something which affects the economy. And the economy is not only for black people, economy is for everyone. Whether you are Asian, whether you are African immigrant, whether you are from Mexico, whether you are, as long as you are in the United States, and you need the development of this place. I think the professor have just said what people don't see. Somebody is saying, as a Missouri native, I found this letter by a chance. I'm glad. She stated that the root of white rage is black person with ambition and drive. It hit me where the all Obama Baba conspiracy came from. I immediately thought of my dad, because no matter how much evidence I'll bring in his way, he still said that there was no way Obama could legit be president. And this was years after he took the office. His election turned social hierarchy, and it's aired for a white work step, especially men who are used to being given the best of everything from historical perspective. What have I said? A person who is used to get something which is better, when people start talking about equality, they'll definitely feel oppressed. So you gotta tell me what to think about this video in the comment section. Do you think this is the solution for the growth and development of your country? You as a black person watching this video, or you as a white person watching this video, or you as a person living in the United States watching this video, do you think these, if corrections are done, this is something that can lead to the development of these places? I want you to tell me what you think about this video in the comment section. As you always know, this is your presenter, Eugene Tech Stories. Until then, Let's meet in my next video. Peace, love, and harmony. Salute.